machines and the metallic clang of chains. A man steps through the factory doors covered in grease, his boots echoing on the concrete floor. His name is Samuel Reed. For 22 years, this building has been his second home. The rhythm of gears and hammer strikes is his heartbeat. The smell of steel and oil, his daily air. But today feels different. The hum of human chatter is gone, replaced by the cold, perfect rhythm of automation. Machines now do the work of men. Samuel swipes his badge at the gate. The scanner flashes red. Access denied. A foreman's voice, distant and uneasy. Sam. They've upgraded the line. He looks around, the same floors, the same walls, but a different world. A machine hisses beside his station, flawless, tireless. And for the first time in his life, Samuel feels like the rusted part no one needs anymore. Every struggle leaves an echo, and every echo carries greatness. Welcome to Echoes of Greatness, where we don't just tell stories, we resurrect them. This is the story of Samuel Reed, a man who learned that losing everything can sometimes be the start of something divine. Samuel was born in Dayton, Ohio, place built on smoke, railroads, and sweat. His father had worked in the same factory before him. So did his grandfather. The Reeds were men of steel, literally. They built bridges, beams, machines, everything but wealth. Samuel grew up believing that if he worked harder than everyone else, he'd be safe, he'd be worthy, he'd be enough. Home was modest but full. His wife, Maria, had a gentle voice and calloused hands from years of caregiving. And then there was Leela, their miracle. She came into the world with a tiny heartbeat that doctors weren't sure would last. Yet she smiled through the pain, soft, brave, unstoppable. Every paycheck Samuel earned was divided between food, rent, and Leela's medical bills. But he never complained. He believed that men like him didn't get to dream, they just kept going. Until automation arrived. It didn't come like a storm. It came like a whisper. One memo, one meeting. 1 week later, his station was silent. That night, he walked home beneath the glow of streetlights, his breath fogging in the cold. The world felt unfamiliar, quieter, heavier. He opened the front door. Maria was cooking soup, humming softly. Leela colored on a scrap of cardboard beside a pile of hospital forms. Dad, she smiled, holding up her drawing, a stick figure family under a bright yellow sun. He smiled back, but something inside him cracked. At dinner, Maria asked, "How was work today?" Samuel didn't answer. He looked down at his hands, blackened with grease, trembling slightly, hands that could fix anything, except what was broken inside him. When a man loses his job, the world doesn't stop, it simply moves on without him. Samuel tried to keep pace. He swept gas station floors at night, unloaded trucks for minimum wage, mopped hallways until dawn. He told Maria not to worry. Something will come up, he said. But each month, the bills multiplied, and his spirit shrank. Leela's hospital visits grew more frequent. The nurses knew their names now. Samuel hated that. He hid his exhaustion behind a smile when he came home. But his body told the truth: aching joints, hollow eyes, shoulders that had forgotten how to stand tall. Still, he kept going, because that's what fathers do when no one else can. Maria began skipping her own medication so Leela could have hers. She smiled through it like mothers do when they're hiding fear. Samuel counted bills by candlelight, his hands stained with ink and oil. Each coin dropped into the jar sounded like a countdown. Then one night, Leela's heart monitor beeped faster than usual. Maria panicked, calling Samuel from work. He rushed through rain, praying with every step. At the hospital, he stood outside the glass, watching doctors move like ghosts. Machines again, machines saving what human hands could not. He felt small, powerless, broken. When Leela finally stabilized, he kissed her forehead and whispered, "I'll fix this, baby. I promise." But promises don't pay bills. Dayton was a small town. Word traveled fast. Neighbors began to whisper, "He used to work at the plant, right? Yeah, poor guy. Can't keep up with the times." Samuel heard them, every whisper a nail in his pride. He stopped going to Sunday gatherings, stopped answering calls from old friends. Each look of pity felt like a verdict. One morning, as he walked home with the rejected job application in his pocket, two men from his old shift crossed the street to avoid him. That hurt more than hunger. When he stepped into his garage that night, he didn't turn on the light, he just sat surrounded by forgotten things. A cracked chair leg caught his eye, and something inside him said, "Maybe I can fix this." He picked up a hammer. Not out of inspiration, out of instinct. One nail, one strike, then another. The rhythm soothed him. A chair leg repaired, a drawer aligned, a table sanded smooth. For hours he worked in silence, until the first sunlight crept across the concrete floor. The garage looked different, alive. Maria found him there, eyes wide. "Sam," she whispered, "these look new." He smiled faintly. "Just junk made decent. Maybe someone will buy them." He laughed. "Who'd want this old stuff?" She took photos anyway. That night, she posted them online with the caption, "Handmade restorations built with love. By morning, 3 pieces were gone. Sold. $200. Maria cried. Samuel stared, speechless. For the first time in months, they laughed together. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind them, when you rebuild what's broken, life sometimes rebuilds you too. Samuel's life split in two. By day, he scrubbed the hallways of Dayton Elementary, the squeak of his mop echoing down empty corridors. By night, he returned to the smell of pine and polish. His garage transformed into a second life. Every evening, he changed uniforms. Janitor's blue for craftsman's flannel. The world paid him pennies for the first and gave him peace in the second. He would come home after midnight, kiss Maria's forehead, then light a single bulb over his workbench. The garage flickered to life, sawdust swirling like tiny stars. Sometimes exhaustion whispered, "You can't keep this up." But his hands kept moving, because every strike of the hammer sounded like survival. Progress came slowly, shaped by trial and splinter. Samuel watched videos on an old laptop, learning joinery from strangers across the internet. He took notes on scrap paper measurements, sanding angles, varnish ratios. When mistakes happened, he didn't curse. He adjusted. He mixed old oak with sleek steel legs, creating a style that was both memory and modernity. Maria teased him, "You're part craftsman, part scientist." He smiled. "No, I'm just a man trying to turn pain into furniture." Soon the garage smelled of cedar instead of despair. Leela would wander in, curious, tracing tiny fingers along the smooth wood. "Is this magic, Daddy?" He chuckled. "Kind of. It's what happens when you don't give up." One Friday night, he leaned against the doorway, wiping sweat from his forehead. The garage was filled with pieces, tables, chairs, shelves, each one reborn. Maria stepped beside him. "Looks like a business," she said. He laughed. "Feels like therapy. Therapy can have a name." Together they painted it on an old plank. Second Chance Woodworks. They took pictures of every item, sunlight catching the grain. Leela giggling in the background. Maria uploaded them to a small online marketplace. A tea first. Silence. Then a ping. Another message. "Is this handmade?" Another. "Can you ship to Columbus?" Samuel stared at the notifications, heart racing. For the first time in years, the world wanted something he'd built with his own hands. Success trickled in like morning light, gentle but unstoppable. A neighbor bought a bench, then a calf ordered 3 tables. Soon Samuel spent every spare minute fulfilling small commissions, but growth carried struggle. He lacked tools, space, time. The janitor job drained his body. The workshop drained his sleep. Some nights, he'd fall asleep standing, saw still humming. Maria would turn it off, guide him to bed. "You have to rest," she whispered. He'd smile through fatigue. Rest comes after the work is done. Bills still waited, and the hospital still called. But for once, they weren't calling about debt, they were calling about progress. Leela's condition had stabilized. Hope, it seemed, was contagious. Summer arrived, and with it, the Dayton Art Fair, a place where dreamers displayed what their hands could imagine. Maria insisted Samuel sign up. He resisted. "These are homemade," she countered. "They're made with heart." That's rarer. He loaded the truck at dawn. Each table wrapped in brown paper, prayers tucked between the folds. A tea, the fair, bright tents lined the streets. Music, laughter, the smell of kettle corn. Samuel stood behind his booth, nerves twisting. Hours passed. Compliments came, but no sales. Then footsteps. A tall man in a linen coat, silver hair catching sunlight. He paused at Samuel's hybrid table, oak top, steel base, glass inlay. This, the man said, is different. He turned the tag, nodding. You mix eras like a storyteller. Samuel smiled shyly. Guess I just build what feels right. The man extended his hand. Harold Lanning. Lanning & Co. Interiors. I'd like to order 5 of these for our Chicago showroom. Samuel blinked, words failing. 5, and perhaps more after that. When Harold left, Samuel simply stood there, trembling, sun hitting his face. For a long time, he said nothing, then whispered, "Thank you, Maria. You were right." 3 days after the art fair, Samuel refreshed his email for the 100th time. Then a subject line, "Purchase order Lanning & Co." He clicked. 5 tables. Total, $12,000. He read it once, twice, a third time. Tears blurred the words. He leaned back in his chair, whispering, "It's real." Maria entered, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "What's wrong?" He laughed through tears. "Nothing's wrong, everything's right." He handed her the screen. For a moment they just stared, then laughed, then cried. Outside, the late morning sun touched the house like a benediction. For years he had built things no one wanted. Now, the world wanted him. The next morning, the garage roared alive. He sanded. He stained. He measured twice, cut once, and whispered gratitude under his breath. But one man could not fill an order that big alone. So he called the numbers scribbled on an old coffee stain list, men from the factory who'd lost their jobs. 2. Benny, you still got that sander? Yeah. Then get here. We've got work. One by one, they came. Men who'd once built steel now built wood. Laughter replaced the hiss of machines. The clang of metal gave way to the song of hammers and hope. They worked through heat and sweat, through cheap pizza dinners and coffee. Every plank carried a story. Every joint held redemption. Weeks turned to months. Orders poured in from Chicago, Cleveland, Cincinnati. Each piece left Dayton wrapped, not just in paper, but in purpose. They began stamping every shipment, handcrafted by Second Chances, because that's what it was. A reporter visited, notebook in hand. "What made you start?" she asked. Samuel smiled. "Losing everything." She laughed softly, then wrote the headline that would change his business. "Factory worker builds a fortune from scraps." By the end of the year, the small team had grown to 12. He paid fair wages, offered healthcare, and hung a photo of Leela at the entrance, a reminder of why they built. One afternoon, the shop was quiet. The men were on lunch break, sunlight spilling through wide windows. Samuel leaned against the doorframe and saw a sight that stopped his breath. Leela, now 12, sat at a small table, brush in hand, painting tiny flowers across the drawer of a cabinet. Maria stood nearby, smiling. He didn't speak. He simply watched as his daughter's laughter filled the air. Light, free, alive. The same heart that once struggled now beat strong. "Tears welled," he whispered. "This is my fortune." Every hammer strike carried an echo. Every sleepless night left a mark. Every scar became a signature on his masterpiece. Samuel Reed, once a man replaced by machines, had become a craftsman of destiny. He'd proven that greatness doesn't require perfect circumstances, only relentless faith. When people asked his secret, he answered, "It's not the wood, it's the will, because what you build with your hands fades, but what you build with your heart that lasts forever." Greatness isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with confetti or cameras. It shows up quietly in garages, in backyards, in the hands of people who refuse to quit. Samuel still works 6 days a week. He still sweeps the floors himself. But when he looks around at his team, his wife, his daughter, he sees proof that hard work can rebuild more than a home. It can rebuild a soul. He keeps the first cracked chair he ever fixed near the door, A reminder that every beginning starts with something broken. If Samuel Reed's journey moved you today, share your thoughts below. Tell us your second chance story. And if you believe that faith, hard work, and love can reshape a life, subscribe to Echoes of Greatness for more true stories of hope, underdogs, and human transformation. Because every struggle leaves an echo, and every echo carries greatness.